It was 1941. World War II was beginning to take a toll on the Axis powers and the Allied forces. It was one of the first wars waged on a truly global scale, with the Allied forces and the Axis powers pitted against each other, making it one of the deadliest human conflicts in history. The Germans had just decided to attack Russia as part of Operation Barbarossa. Meanwhile, hidden away in a remote corner of England was Bletchley Park, where a team of elite cryptographers were working relentlessly on cracking a machine's code that would change the course of the war if successful. This machine was called the Enigma. Throughout history, codes have been used in warfare to prevent important secrets from falling into the wrong hands. Wireless radio communication was being used widely in World War II to transmit important information to strategic locations and forces. There was a need to send this information in codes to prevent the enemy from intercepting them. Enigma was a cipher invented by the German engineer Arthur Scherbus in 1918. It was sold initially for commercial purposes and was used as such until adopted by Germany in World War II.
The Enigma cipher was both used for encrypting and decrypting messages. On the surface, it looked like a typewriter, but there was much more to it than meets the eye. The mechanism that ran the Enigma was a highly complex series of mechanical systems. The Enigma machine worked in a circuit. Every time a key was pressed, electrical signals would be sent through the plugboard. The plugboard allowed a letter to be switched with one another. In this example, the letter E would be switched with the letter B. After the plugboard, it was sent through 3 rotors, which had randomly scrambled wires inside. Each time it went through a rotor, it got scrambled to another letter until it reached a reflector, which scrambled it once and sent it back through the 3 rotors, resulting in the initial letter being scrambled 7 times. We started off with the letter E. That got switched to the B from the plugboard. Now it got scrambled to the letter G. Finally, it gets sent back to the plugboard. Since there's no plug for G, it stays as it is and completes the circuit, resulting in our initial letter to be scrambled a total of 8 times.
When an encrypted message was created, it was sent in Morse code to another German officer with the same copy of the Enigma machine. They would adjust the settings provided for the day, type in the message, and obtain the original message as a result. Bletchley Park, Buckinghamshire, England, was the primary location for British codebreakers to operate from during World War II. The crew at Bletchley Park, made up of some of the top linguists, mathematicians, and crossword puzzle fans, toiled laboriously to decipher enemy communications. Even though Bletchley Park gets most of the credit, many other organizations contributed greatly to the mission's success.
The first successful attempt to decrypt the Enigma was by the Poles. During a high risk of invasion from the Germans at the end of World War I, the Poles formed a bureau called the Bureau Cyfro. The bureau trained 20 mathematicians in cryptography and set them out to decode the Enigma's encrypted messages. They were able to reduce the amount of key combinations to 105,456 after finding patterns in the Enigma's workings, and spent another year cataloging all the other configurations before they cracked the code. However, since the Germans kept improving upon their Enigma machines, they then compiled all their information into a mechanical system that they called a bomba, a machine designed to crack the Enigma. With an invasion around the corner from the Germans, the Poles gave their blueprints of the bomba and replica Enigmas to the French and the British. We sat down and talked to Dr. Phyllis Soibel, a professor of history.
When we really look at it, it's the Poles who had the first success because they were far more vulnerable than the British were to the Germans. And even though they had a treaty with the Germans at the time, it had gone back to the 1920s, Adolf Hitler made them, they stepped up efforts and were very successful against Enigma, as you point out. Again, if you look at Winterbottom, you would think that the British had developed the bomba. No, as you point out, it's the Poles.
Alan Turing was a British computer scientist, mathematician, and logician whose work on the creation of the bomb, which is derived from the Polish bomba, led to the decryption of the Enigma. The bomb was the equivalent of about 36 Enigma machines, which each had 3 drums with a similar makeup as the Enigma scrambling rotors. He cracked the Enigma using cribs. He would compare a part of the encrypted code to a known portion of it, such as Hail Hitler, a common phrase at the end of most messages. In addition, using the crucial information that no letter could be encoded to itself, he was able to crack codes every 20 minutes using the bomb with the help of his co-workers, which cycled through all the possible combinations. The members at Bletchley Park also took advantage of the fact that German officers were sometimes complacent and didn't change the rotor settings on a daily basis, making it easier to crack the codes.
Even though Alan Turing is one of the most well-known and credited for the decryption of Enigma, there were many others whose contributions played a major role. Henryk Zygalski, Jerzy Różycki, and Marian Rejewski were 3 Poles hired into the Bureau due to their promise in cracking codes mathematically. This team was the first to crack the Enigma code and developed many techniques that the British would later use to crack the Enigma as well. However, their efforts only reached the limelight recently. Other well-known cryptologists at Bletchley Park were Hugo Alexander, Gordon Welchman, and Joan Clark. In addition to Joan Clark, many other women had a profound impact on the successes of Bletchley Park. 75% of the workforce there was women. Their efforts not only affected the success at Bletchley Park, but also impacted their lives before and after the war.
So we're starting to get a lot more information, in the last 20 years about women at Bletchley. I think one of the surprising things is that Bletchley relied on women that much. Also important to know that they weren't just, radio operators. They're the ones recording, taking down the coded messages, the ciphered messages. But in actuality, you have women who are cryptographers themselves. They're linguists. A number of women were experts in German, Italian, French. I think that the kind of negative is that while the men at Bletchley went on to careers and were quite successful, most of the women at Bletchley, the war's over, Bletchley gradually shuts down. And those women are now, well, we don't want you in the workforce because you're going to take jobs away from other people.
When the Allies obtained information from the decrypted Enigma messages, they had to carefully choose which information to act on to prevent the Axis powers from discovering that Enigma messages were read. As a result, no one on the Allied side was able to act on a piece of information received by the decryption of the Enigma messages unless there was another source from which the information could be acquired. When the Enigma was cracked, due to the secrecy of the mission, not many people knew the significance of the event until 1974, when a book was published by RAF intelligence officer Frederick Winterbotham, revealing the truth to the public.
The cryptanalysts' work proved to become very useful later on in World War II. The decrypted messages allowed them to obtain the enemy's plans as well as information regarding where German U-boats were located. This gave the Allies an advantage in many battles, one of the most important of which was the Battle of the Atlantic. It is broadly recognized that the work of Bletchley Park, in collaboration with the Poles, the French, and many other organizations, ended the war 2 to 4 years early and saved an estimated 14 million lives. It has also revolutionized the fields of computing, with the first electronic computer, the Colossus, used to decrypt enemy ciphers, laying the foundation for modern computers as we know them today. Decades later, we still use valuable lessons on cybersecurity discovered by the journey to crack the Enigma machine, and we still employ principles such as laziness leads to compromised security, or secure systems require attentive users.
Certainly there are military lessons that can be learned in terms of not only the effort to break Enigma. I think that certainly an immediate lesson, since number of the things about communication have changed really radically in 75, 80 years. But at the time, no code or secure communication system is ever really unbreakable. It's easy to become complacent, but in the end, if you think your communications are secure, think again. You never know really how, what kind of success your enemy is having. And I think that really importantly, if you're having success against your enemy's codes, odds are that they're having success against you.